We lost Brit because he was doing correspondence for the election of this episode, unfortunately. Somewhere out in the Catskills. I don't know there are any major elections going on out there, but that's why Brit's not here today.
Are we recording?
Did you just do a cold open?
I think so. I think that is a cold open.
Damn, because I had a bit.
Oh,
a little bit of a bit.
Yeah,
about a Brit bit.
Yeah.
Oh, just that he was in the Catskills. Just
We could also just pause.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
It's Alex!
Episode 195 of View from 202. You might be thrown off a little bit by the voice right now, I think. I don't know.
Apparently we all sound the same.
People have said that.
Well, we do. I think you and I do.
Which is absurd to me because knowing how we sound in real life, I don't think you'll ever mix us up. Especially because Sam has the long hair now, and I don't.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, you should be able to be hearing that through whatever podcast service you use.
Yes.
Sam's hair.
This is episode 195, and you might have noticed that Brit Bird is not here.
Yeah, it's Cork, Sam, Peaches.
That is
no
our
Brit.
Nope. Yes. No Brit.
We're bringing it back. I feel like there was a period of time where Brit was a little MIA for a second. The three of us.
Yeah, we held it down for like during the worst seasons. during the absolute depths of awful.
Speaking of which, we might have made it through the worst times without Brit. But we had the best time at ASC GeoGuessr without Brit.
Yeah.
This week.
Yeah. I mean, finally cut out the dead weight.
Yeah. Honestly, the reason Brit's not here is because we traded him to another podcast.
Yeah.
Super League.
Brit's contract was just an albatross. And, needed to be unloaded.
We had to move him.
We had to find a very gullible GM to toss him off on. But
pending
we
ITC visa certification, Patrick Haddad, lead scorer of GeoGuessr, will be joining this podcast, and Brit will be on his merry way to off the perch, despite the fact that he is not a ESE capo.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the branding discipline has really gone off the rails lately, but we all just roll with it. Actually, I'm kidding. Brit is actually has not been sold. He is just up in the Catskills, kind of sharpening his stand-up act before he goes to his fall job writing for the Steve Allen show. He's going to go out to LA for a little bit and do that. So he's just kind of working some of the resorts upstate to kind of get his mojo. But for now, we're just going to kind of talk about the last week of New York Red Bulls regular season action.
Yeah, it's really selfish of him to leave to try to get writing credit so he could be like the token Red Bulls fan on SNL next season.
I mean, everybody's just trying to strike while the iron's hot on soccer, and he's just trying to get on that.
Yeah, he's trying to get that Ted Lasso writing gig.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, everybody just, thinks that you just plug soccer into stuff and the Emmys will just come rolling in now.
I have been saying that the way to fix soccer discourse on Twitter is to write in Jose Mourinho as a character into Ted Lasso as this kind of morally ambiguous anti-hero. And then, like the people who have moral quandaries at all who watch Ted Lasso will finally understand.
Yeah, Brit is just kind of taking the culture to the mainstream like we all want to see happen.
He's writing Joss Whedon lines for Oscar Isaac to play Jose Mourinho.
Oh my god, that's actually perfect. Yeah. There's the thing going around where there was like a viral tweet a couple of weeks ago where somebody posted like an ad for a new Netflix show where the guy looks like Mourinho, and the tweet was like, this guy's about to like win the Champions League with Inter Milan or something. But I can't remember if I ever found out who the actor was. It looked like maybe like Penn Badgley from
it was from you
yeah.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, so that is who it was. But
it's because
Josie's
a very handsome man.
Well, yeah, I mean that's been gone over, but also just like the way that he had like his hair parted and shit like that.
Nice.
Just kind of nailed it, and like the scowl on his face. But yeah, we are here to discuss what has all of a sudden become a pretty crucial, crunchy last week of Red Bull's regular season action. We are coming off 2 games since our last episode. There is one game that we probably won't touch on too much on orders from Gerhard Struber himself. The DC game, we lost 1-0, and Gerhard just kind of said right off the bat, we forget today. We forget this result. Kind of played out similar to the first game that we played in DC earlier this year, where we were more or less in control, but then just, couldn't make it happen in their end, and then they nicked something, and
things
we
didn't
move on.
Want to go in.
Yeah.
We talked about how there's like a finite number of misses you have on penalties, and we got one out of the way. Maybe we have we'll apply that concept to one-on-one chances with the keeper and say that like we got our misses out of the way in time for playoffs. Hopefully.
The streak is over.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
But I think, in that moment, it was pretty shitty to, I think that, we had to just win the DC game and the Montreal game, and we would have locked a spot into the playoffs, whatever the fuck that means. But the fact that, we did lose that game in DC, I think none of us were satisfied. We all had an expectation of 4 points over the week at least.
Yeah.
Well, the game itself was just like bashing your head against a wall over and over again. It was unfortunate in how close we got, because it made it even more frustrating that we couldn't get one through.
But I felt like there was, and Cork, I think you mentioned this, you tweeted this, after the game, like there was this real just disconnect between the deeper defensive midfielders and what looked like an attacking trio with Fabio, Klimala, and Cáceres. And I felt like that was so apparent when we were trying to do anything in the back, but we ended up just doing kind of balls over the top to our 3 attackers, and not too much came from that.
Well, to be fair to the attackers too, or like I guess not to be fair to the attackers, but the chances they got were pretty squandered during the game as well.
I agree with the chances that we were given, but it just feel like the strategy that we had, like it was a very frustrating one, and it didn't really feel, I don't know. I felt like it was very against kind of where made us successful in the last 8 games.
Right. Because like the team is definitely, as the season's gone on, and this is something that we kind of anticipated with Coronel, especially coming into play keeper, that the team was going to be moving it out of the back on the ground a little bit more than is typical for Red Bull, because obviously there was a lot of attention earlier in the year on the long balls and playing the 2-man strike formation and kind of sending balls into them. But as the season's gone along, and the team's gotten a little more gelled and a little more comfortable, there's been more kind of the passing in the back and trying to get it, out on the ground, which has been working a little bit and gotten, sharper in the last, couple months. But then in this game, like you were just saying, Sam, there were so many moments where it was clear that the plan wasn't to just, hit long balls immediately and go direct immediately. The plan was to kind of dump it into the middle to Davis and Yearwood and have them kind of quarterback things from there. But there are so many times where they were just collecting, a lot of times these like square balls from the wing backs and just collecting it and needing like a second or two to trap it and then look around, and just nothing was moving fluidly. There weren't runners near them to kind of, facilitate one-time balls. Just everything moved way too slow for it to kind of break attacks. And eventually, the chances that we did generate, the couple breakaways and stuff like that, mostly came through, just trying to hit home run balls. There was one that Wiki Carmona hit that was incredible. But again, that's not to go off on a whole sidebar about Wiki Carmona, but just, he has such like sloppy games, and then he'll hit a ball like that.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, that's why he's there. But yeah, I mean, it was just, and mind you, it was on the road and against a DC team that was, a little bit healthier than they let on, I guess. And people were a little upset about that, but it is what it is. But,
I'm sorry you lost your gambling money.
Yeah. But that, yeah, it was just, it was the team trying to do a lot of the same things that they've done successfully during this recent run, but just not pulling it off. And yeah, I agree too with the kind of sentimental, or not sentimental, but kind of superstitious premise that you don't want to have an unbeaten streak ride on too long, because that's not real. Like, that's not how it works. And you're gonna lose a tougher one eventually. So might as well have it to be one shit road game.
It's the meme with the mask with the smiling face and the guy underneath, and it's just like, it's actually good that we broke the streak because now we don't have the mental pressure going into the final run. And I think I said that verbatim as soon as the thing ended. But there's this an element of mentality there that's just like, okay, like we're still good, especially because we got the rebound win, which we'll talk about. We're still good, but like we don't have to be perfect anymore, and we'll still be okay, and then that is a little bit of a thing, but it does sound a little bit like copium if you're saying saying that after that game.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, 100% copium, but I think the one thing that we all agree on and we all noticed was that we missed two key players, which was Omir Fernandez and John Tolkien.
And apparently Caden Clark, but we can talk about that later too.
Right. Well, for whatever, and, somewhat separate, but the fact that those two were injured, it kind of takes away, Omir was a known, right? But Tolkien was a recent knock, and not having either of those players in the lineup obviously changes things. Fabio then gets put into that position that Omir would otherwise play, who just looked a little kind of out of place.
Yeah, and honestly, if Fabio's playing there, I just don't consider it the same position that Omir plays, just because of the players that they play.
I agree with you. I think that, like, just from the you look at a formation on the field and you just say, okay, this is the what we see as the the most like for like swap in that spot.
And by that, I just mean that Fabio himself doesn't fit into that role really.
That's definitely true, but I was still surprised by how much Fabio did kind of line up there, like kind of in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
Positionally speaking, like he did line up like in between the wingers and underneath Klimala most of the time, and he was kind of trying to just kind of hold it and play through balls sometimes, which he's not. That doesn't suit him very well.
It very much just felt like square peg round hole. For him, and I was going to bring that up because it was just like such a glaring. I think everyone who's watching this game like pointed that out. Every single person, no matter how casual a viewer you are, just like, oh yeah, he's losing the ball a lot, or like he's not really like, the more astute-minded viewers know, like that's not really his best role. And I think he is suited better when we play with kind of like two out and out forwards. Obviously, kind of if he's going to play with Klimala, but I don't. Based on what we've seen, I don't know if necessarily they jive together in that well, or like we'll ever see what the beginning of the season kind of promised us ever from this team right now, knowing the personnel. But he's just kind of slow on counterattacks. I hate to say it. Like he kind of slows down things when we're trying to break, and that's. When he's in that field position that's a little further back, that's not helpful. When he's further up, it's more hold up, and I think that hurts it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's a kind of consensus that it's a little frustrating to see him in that kind of, like, when you do compare them so directly, they're just very different players. We also ended up seeing Monzon start. Or get some minutes. Yeah. He made his first appearance with the team in that kind of center back role. Who did he come on for?
He came on for Reyes, which was just precautionary,
right?
Just to, and I guess that kind of speaks to maybe how Struber was viewing this game, especially when we were down and it felt like things weren't going our way. That it was just like, might as well just kind of try this out now, and rest Reyes a little bit, even though I don't necessarily believe in that center backs need to be subs. Center backs have it easy. They just sit back there the whole game.
Definitely.
You know,
Yeah.
Every time you play center back now for GeoGuessr, you're not allowed to sub out.
No, I mean I'm fine. With
Yeah,
that.
you play the whole game. That's fine.
but no, that he did say that it was. I mean, with Reyes and all the substitutions that kind of happened around like the 60th minute, where he was just like, yeah, we have to keep people fresh for the packed games coming up,
Which I think is very fair. That being said, I do think that in a game where we otherwise had our full 18, that's where you would see Gutman drop back into that center back role, and you see Tolkien come in on that wing back role. And I feel like that was a piece that was sorely missed.
I mean, our wing backs are a mess.
I mean, that's definitely been like his go-to adjustment, recently has been moving one of the wing backs into the middle and, adjusting from there however you want, but not having Tolkien kind of prevents that flexibility.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, it seems, I guess this is kind of advancing things a little further, that Tolkien will be back soon, or has to be back for the game tomorrow night. But we'll get into that in a minute. Do we have anything else we want to go over on DC?
No, absolutely not.
No,
it just sucked.
Yeah,
it
was a bad game.
A team that we could have easily thwarted because Columbus literally did so 4 days later.
Klimala had the yips for some reason. Yeah. Like it was,
Yeah, it was just one of those games. Games. Which thankfully have been rarer lately. But
I'd rather get it over with now than later. I will say, kind of spooky prediction on my part for the spooky week that came ahead, for me to say, it's like it wasn't unreasonable for us to come out of this week with 3 points, and going into the week without expectation. I just want to clear up that this week was still fine. Like we're still good. We still came out in 6th place after the week finished, right?
Yeah, and DC's screwed, and just and part of the reason for that is because 2.5 days later, we came back to Harrison, and it took a little bit. It took a while, but it ended up getting 3 points.
It took 90 fucking minutes.
Took 90 minutes and like 40 seconds, 90 minutes, 50 seconds.
Never in doubt.
Yeah, never in doubt.
Sure.
Never.
Yeah.
That was the plan the whole time.
If you were in 202, you heard us.
You knew that we were so confident.
Full faith.
We've through some illicit connections, we've seen the all access video already that you guys are going to see, and Struber's in the locker room saying, just wait it out in the 90th minute. We're going to run the play where Reyes just kicks it 100 feet up in the air, and Klimala just kind of like does shit with it in the 91st minute.
It's the Hey Arnold scene. Just pass the ball to Klimala.
Pass the ball to Klimala. Feed the monkey, all that stuff. And it worked. Gerhard's grand scheme to not try to score until the 91st. Fucking
what strong mentality from Patrick Klimala. Having like these 2 games where you just like, you knew 3 games, right? Including the penalty miss. You're just like, Klimala's been on this kind of like downward, like, things haven't been going his way. He hasn't been able to finish. He hasn't been able to get that many chances, really, in many aspects. But he keeps playing until the 90th minute, looks up, hits the ball confidently, and then a goal happens.
This might have been the first game that he's gone 90 in.
Yeah,
when you think about it, because I actually asked him at a press conference a couple of weeks ago, whether he knows if it's like tactical reasons that he's usually coming out by 60, 70 minutes, or if he's just not fully fit. And he said like, yeah, I'm still, behind the curve on fitness. I only got here in May, and it's just harder to get, fully fit in the middle of the season, especially when you have to get subbed out for tactical reasons, because you can't run for 90 minutes. And this was the first, game where he, I guess was, I don't know how much of it was just Struber not trusting, what he had on the bench while we were chasing the game, but he left Klimala out there the whole time. And Klimala was the catalyst for that goal at the end, which, and like you mentioned, the cross was just an example of his quality. I mean, Klimala really, tries to avoid passing the ball until the last minute.
Yeah.
It's really not his game, but it's really in some of his passes that you see some of the most of his quality.
Because that's
whether it's crossing or like, trying to play through balls and switches and stuff like that. I mean, I mean, it's the trite, cliche or whatever, but just he has the quality.
It's
striking the ball.
Yeah, ball striking
sets great players apart.
All about confidence and just knowing that you're going to hit it, and he just does it, And because he has a great and not in like a super ego sense, but like he has a great ego about being an attacker, and he has a great confidence about the way he plays, and that he has great fortitude too, and like you see that when he plays, you see that when he celebrates, and like after when the final whistle blew, he did a little bit of a scream into the air, like Klimala is like a very special player, right? And I think that he's like it's one of those things you realize he's a real competitor, he's a real beast, he's a real he's one of those guys that like the reason he costs $6 million isn't just because he has some good technique. It's because of these intangibles.
Right. No, definitely. And yeah, I mean, he by this point, I think it's whoever posted about it, I think he has 8 goals, 7 assists now, which when he only came in, about 5-10 games into the season, and he's, hasn't scored for a few weeks now. That's still a pretty solid output, even while still contributing in other parts of the game and still being trusted to lead the press and all that kind of stuff.
He can still get double digits,
Oh, totally. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't, especially knowing, I mean, he's only 22 years old also. And I mean, especially maybe 23, but especially knowing what the kind of track record is for, foreign strikers getting used to MLS, and just this team's general state. I mean, over this year, I mean, we know that the midfield isn't very creative and there's not a lot of chances being put on the plate for strikers. So, and we're not scoring a lot because of that. And for him to still be getting some production in a state like that, I mean, when this team is, firing on all cylinders eventually, hopefully in the future, you have to imagine he's just going to be reaping the rewards. So,
you know what?
It'll be interesting to see over the next couple of years.
I have a confession to make.
Yeah.
The real reason I know that Patrick's good is because when I go to his Instagram and I go to his comments, I see a bunch of Celtic fans in the comments being like, we never should have let you go. And that there's nothing more I don't know. There's no better sense of confirmation, I guess, than seeing stuff like that, honestly.
I mean, Celtic fans are pretty down bad right
in general,
now,
yeah.
But also, yeah, I think there's generally a sense that he didn't get to show everything that he had there. There was a guy a few games ago who showed up at warm-ups with who had a Celtic jersey, who was begging Klimala to come sign it, and he did. So
I think I saw that guy.
Yeah.
I saw a bunch of. I've seen more and more Celtic people. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know how much we want to get into what happened in the rest of that game, considering how much it was defined by that moment.
The one thing I would say, if we want to talk a little bit about the game, is that, we mentioned Wiki Carmona coming on and adding kind of an energy as a sub, but he felt very stale as a starter.
Yeah.
Really out of place. I mean, it goes to show with a halftime substitution, right? But very surprised, because it was just I feel like he's a reactive player in the sense that he understands a situation that he needs to get involved in and kind of, act accordingly. But when he starts a game, it just feels like a totally different player.
Yeah. It's also that he's been played. Struber calls it 210s. He doesn't call it wingers, who are, like Cáceres and Carmona have been kind of playing in this system, as kind of the advanced midfielders. But despite it being called dual tens, the way Carmona either interprets it or just, kind of, naturally comes to play it, is that he's just trying to get it onto his left foot to put crosses in. And he just doesn't have the dribbling and kind of mobility to really do that on a consistent level from those spots on the field. And just wasn't really working. And then I think that does kind of lead into, you bringing that up, Sam, does kind of lead into what I think, leading up to the goal was kind of the story of the game, or kind of the subplot of the game was that Caden Clark didn't come in for Carmona directly, but it was a little later on that he came on actually when the team shifted formation, taking which defender came out? Was it
Edwards?
That's right. Yeah. To make it only 2 center backs and then add Clark in as basically a 10 in a 4-2-3-1. And Clark legitimately changed the game. Not, his first significant minutes in a while, as he noted after the game. And, he also said after the game, he just kind of tried to be himself. And the way that manifested on the field was just kind of picking up the ball, kind of pressuring guys and stripping it, and then just making shit happen, for lack of a better phrase.
His very first action on the pitch was a great counter press. I think I cheered very loudly when that happened, because it was like he made a very good tackle, won the ball, and then just like progressed it forward. And I was like, oh, yeah, we haven't had this bite in a while.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like, oh, the whole game's kind of getting back together again a little bit for the season, like we're starting to see all the glimpses of everything. Caden even tried like an audacious volley at one point, and I was like, oh yeah, good for you for trying that, because like we need you to get back into doing that again.
Yeah.
And, he was just playing some balls too that were absolutely line splitting. That I don't think that. I mean, Davis has had, I didn't mention this in the DC roundup, but like Davis has had a few pretty good games of distribution from the back and like winning balls. But like the way that Caden Clark a little further up was able to make some passes to split defenders, is something that we just haven't had. Like, I don't think that Carmona's had that really. Carmona's kind of dribbled a little bit more. CCJ is CCJ, hot and cold, but even in that, it's kind of like not necessarily the same type of passing range that Caden Clark has shown in this one game.
Definitely. I mean, it remains to be seen. I mean, it's so hard to tell what, I mean, obviously he had the surgery earlier in this year, and that threw off his fitness significantly. And as he said after the game, it's and it's kind of similar with Klimala, where it's just so hard when the team is trying as hard as they can to win games and not necessarily putting, your recovery front and center, that it's so hard to get back to your full fitness in that sort of situation in the middle of the season. But even beyond that, it's hard to tell necessarily what's been keeping off the field, especially in the last maybe month or so. And then, kind of projecting from that, it's hard to tell what his status is on going to Leipzig this winter, because as we know, Kevin Thelwell kind of hinted over the summer that even though that transfer is written up, that there's still a chance that he'll be loaned back here a little bit longer, depending on how things look. So the fact that he hasn't been playing much here both implies that he might not be fully ready for Leipzig, but then it also could imply that maybe there's some kind of protection that they're putting on him before he goes there. Excuse me. It's hard to tell. And, it's impossible for us to know until it happens next year. But That being said, this sort of kind of gray area he's been in has just been interesting, and it would be nice to get out of it, both for the, sort of planning reasons that I just laid out, and because, as we found out on Saturday night, he could still be effective on the field immediately.
Have you instead considered that Gerhard Struber and the team are just brain geniuses who knows the exact time to keep players out and freeze them out of the team in order to motivate them to play really well? Like Drew Year would.
The 91st minute strategy already worked, so
Right, exactly.
I trust him on that.
Exactly.
So.
The Drew Yearwood, Caden Clark, now Fabio coming back and scoring case. Like, I really think it's a matter of just like master strategy of knowing how many weeks to keep players shut out. Frankie Amaya is going to come back immensely in the playoffs, in the middle of the playoffs.
They finally got Benny Fazio to show up at the Port of Elizabeth docks to get the HGH they needed to get everybody back on the field at just the right time.
No, they just gave all the HGH to Lucas Monzon. Have you seen that guy? He's enormous.
He's big, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess I didn't spot him too much.
He didn't look that big.
He's like 6'5", dude.
I don't know if he's that big.
I don't think he's that tall. He didn't look that.
He looked lumbering and towering every time I've seen him.
I don't know,
but he also looks much older than he is.
That I'll agree with.
I also watch all away games on my iPhone, so I don't really know.
But this guy's like what, like 19 or something?
Yeah, he's like 19.
He looks
20.
like a 35-year-old. There's like hormones involved.
I think he's bald baller brand already a little bit.
Yeah, and he's got the beard going already
he's
too.
Like mustache. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, were there any other? I'm trying to think of any other kind of novelties to the Montreal game. I mean, there was some Yuba. We got some Yuba.
We got a lot of.
We got some Yuba in DC too. Like,
well, I mean, I was gonna say you said this during the game, but he does play kind of a directness from a holding midfielder that we don't have.
He's the most orthodox defensive midfielder in the squad, and you can kind of see why Struber kind of credited him with the team structure and the single start that he had at the beginning of the year versus Kansas City. But yeah, you can definitely see that.
Which makes it a little more frustrating that there are no other players on this entire squad built out of midfielders that kind of fit that role. But.
Yeah. I think Caceres can play that role if, you commit him to it, but doesn't seem like they're interested in doing that right now.
Doesn't seem like it.
But
I don't think he's interested in that.
Well, I don't think he is either. Yeah. But I mean, that being said, you can see, what Diarra's skill set is, even in the limited minutes, and even with him clearly being slightly rusty. You can just see the immediate kind of decisive, simple passes and just being a good presser and tackler. I mean, you see so much, I mean, with everything that's great about Drew Yearwood, just like in the open field, his instincts for tackles can be so off sometimes. Whereas you saw Diarra come into this game and immediately he knew how to
put a foot in,
how to like technically tackle somebody, how to just, put your body weight underneath them and just, get your leg on the ball and stuff like that. So
yeah, Drew's disruptive in a totally different sense.
Right.
Yeah. He's, like his game sense puts him in a way there where he'd rather intercept passing lanes, and so he gets a lot of interceptions, right? But like when he has to make that physical one-on-one thing, he ends up fouling a lot, which I think we see with his kind of like yellow cards. But yeah, Yuba Diarra knows how to put a tackle in and get it clean, and like Sean Davis doesn't really do that either. He's more about positioning and like being there when the break happens.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's one of our, as we kind of shift into predicting this projecting this last week of regular season action, maybe one of our little treats that we can have is a Yuba start. We'll see. Do we have anything else for Montreal we want to break down before we get into Atlanta and Nashville?
No, let's do it. Let's get into final stretch.
It's the big moment. It's time for the big moment. We're gonna see what the Geese says. Thatchers did.
This is the last regular season preview.
Yeah,
and this is it.
Yeah, where this will be, unless things just go horribly wrong these next two games. I started that incorrectly. I should say this will be our last episode of the playing season if things go horribly wrong these next two games. But if not, we'll just be back.
But we should be okay because Brit's not here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So.
But
That's how plot armor works.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Like if we don't have the character, then we can't like just move on.
The showrunners have it all under control. But the scripts have been written for months. It's just waiting for the
oh yeah,
the
this is
executives
the
to
most
decide.
dramatic decision day ever.
Yeah. But we have, first off, tomorrow night, we're recording on Tuesday, hopefully getting it out later tonight, but you'll probably be listening to this on Wednesday, hours ahead of us playing Atlanta United Football Club.
Or more probably listening to this after we've beaten them and made the playoffs.
That's true. So true. What are we expecting? It's big bad Atlanta again. They've kind of gotten themselves back on track after the incredibly fun, incredibly, nonstop drama of Gabriel Heinz. We now have Gonzalo Pineda in charge, ex-Seattle assistant, ex-Mexico national team player, and just general sensible guy who is not trying to reinvent the wheel, it sounds like, and is just letting the players play. And they're just being Atlanta. They're just having all their, RGs just kind of do their frickin' foot on the ball, frickin', try shit stuff. I mean,
Flicks and shit.
Yeah, we don't need that. Struber said this week, that he thinks that they play pretty similar to Montreal, depending on how you think of how the run of play went against Montreal on Saturday. Struber seems to think we can do a lot of the same things against Atlanta that happened in that game. Hopefully with, better payoff in the final third, depending on what we see. But that being said, we've diagnosed some of the issues recently. A lot of people have diagnosed some of the issues the last couple of weeks, as Omir Fernandez being out, not being able to kind of link the attack together, and it sounds like he will not be available still for this game. So it kind of sounds like we will be probably coming out with the same sort of formation that we have been in this game. What are you guys expecting?
Well, the only known is that Tolkien will sub out for Goodman because he's out for loan, like the loan obligation. Right.
Goodman technically on loan from Atlanta United, and technically, written down in the rules, not allowed to play against Atlanta. So even though he's been out the last couple games, that should mean John Tolkien will step into that role. Hopefully it does.
We're going to get some weird Pendant minutes.
I was going to say Jason Pendant is back.
Wow. That would be the showrunners really, that's more of a sweeps week thing. We might have, that might be more of a May 22 thing, right, if they can keep it in the can, if they can keep paying Pendant that much longer. But We'll see if maybe he's got that card up his sleeve, but I think more than likely we're going to see John Tolkien put into left back, and then probably Tom Edwards again as the third center back with Nealis and Reyes. And then I guess the big decision that Struber can make, as we kind of foreshadowed on the show already, is whether to go with Carmona or Clark in whatever kind of attacking midfield setup he wants to do.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I think at this point, I would love to have Clark with confidence again, because the way he played at the end of last year was pretty special. And I love that energy. Even the way he started this season, I think there was a period where he was kind of trying to get back into things after the appendicitis. And it was pretty shaky. Even his sub appearances just kind of led to like some pretty I don't know, immature yellow cards.
Yeah.
It just felt a little odd. But if this past game was any indication of what the future holds for him, then I would love to see him get more minutes, especially since I don't love Carmona as a starter anyway.
Yeah. Or Fabio in that role.
Right. I think it's even assumed that Fabio is not starting.
Well, I was going to say, you want a big brain take?
Yes.
What if we start off this game the way we ended the last game? 4 in the back.
4 in the back. Yeah.
2 forwards. Have have Caden Clark play kind of a 10,
I think that might have been a formation that Struber switched to once he realized there wasn't much of a threat for Montreal anymore.
I agree.
Whereas I think Atlanta, he'll be a little more conscious of that.
I mean,
at least in the first half, maybe we control Atlanta more than we did Montreal, or maybe we get a goal in the first half against Atlanta, unlike against Montreal, and the 3 at the
test
back.
out that.
The 3 at the back, works better.
Yeah.
But
well, I was gonna say this would be a real bold and cavalier move that if you're big brain enough you might just go with, but no, I agree. I think it'd be interesting to see Caden Clark in that kind of recessed forward role that we have not been able to fill Omir's shoes with necessarily right now. And obviously he's going to play that position differently than Omir would if he came in. So it would be interesting to see how he would link up with everyone if that did happen. But to be honest, I'm expecting Fabio to start.
I think we could see the same thing, and I think this was intentional, or what the motivation was on Struber's part on Saturday, that Fabio starts from the bench just because he packs so much more punch as a sub than Barlow does. Sad to say. That kind of Struber has, I think, in a lot of people would put it this way, has seen the light on Tom Barlow and realizes that he's not going to be necessarily answer when you need a goal late in the game, and that even if it means the team being a little less dynamic to start out, that having Fabio in your pocket in the second half is such a better way to change things and get some more action in the final third than Barlow is. And for that reason, and the fact that Clark might be available in that role, means that I think we might see Fabio start from the bench again.
Is it certain that Omir is out for?
It seems pretty certain. Struber kind of yesterday said not so good, and didn't make any attempt to hint that he might be in. So,
damn. Because hopefully that as we enter the next maybe Nashville following games he's back. But I would love to see an attacking trio of Omir, Clark, and Klimala, honestly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because I'm not sold on Cáceres. I think that last game against Montreal, he basically played as he always does, except he didn't get a goal in the first 10 minutes, which was just fine. He's not.
But he is the one getting on the set piece goals,
right?
So it's
which is great, but when he's not on a set piece goal, he's kind of he just vanishes.
Yeah, he
has moments though of play.
He's a game of just having. He is a player of just having moments, and we kind of touched on it a minute ago. And Cáceres actually we linked to it in One Metro this week in the Ross Haley roundup that Cáceres said in an interview in Venezuela that even this year I've played every midfield position, and he said, I mean, and this is something that we beat up on Armas about too, and I don't necessarily like it from Struber either, that he's just kind of putting me in the advanced midfield spots because he wants me to make shit happen in the final third, and that I can just kind of snipe goals here and there.
Yeah. Which,
mind you, I mean, when the rest of the midfield is not really putting anything together anyway, you might as well get what you can from that.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is for right now. And I think, Cáceres is almost definitely going to start in this game. But I think Clark, you're right, Sam. I think Clark is both can provide more in that role, and I think has just, in the, kind of rightful, track of things has, earned a start for this game. So I think that's what we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I can even see it if it gets to that point where, CCJ might even find some time on the bench. If we put our best foot forward,
right?
He could be a player that swaps in for one of the two deeper defensive midfielders to provide that potential attacking element that they, that Yearwood and Davis may not provide.
Yeah.
In entering like the 75th minute of a game.
Yeah.
And I really like that for someone like CCJ, who otherwise just feels kind of stale unless he's, on the head of a goal in the first few minutes.
Yeah.
But as it relates to like the Atlanta game, like honestly, I don't know anything about Atlanta right now. I barely know what Joseph Martinez is up to, except he scored like a goal that he always scores, like
Just cheap shit.
because we were like constantly fucking reminded of the playoff picture during the DC game.
Yeah, that's right. God.
Which is so irritating. Every like 5 minutes, it would cut to a highlight of a different game. But
I honestly didn't even know what the implications on the standings were at the time.
Right.
Like, I wish they would just put up some
Nobody
like
did.
live standings. So I was like, oh, this is why this is important.
Just do the
Like,
standings updates. Don't. I don't need this like or picture in picture.
Yeah.
Like Jesus Christ. But I don't even know anything about Atlanta right now.
Yeah.
All I do know is that in 2 of their last 3 games, they've given up goals in the 88th and 90th minute.
Oh, perfect team for us.
Which is awesome.
Perfect team for us.
Yeah.
They ended up blowing a lead at home to NYCFC in the 88th minute or 90th minute on a free kick. And then they ended up blowing a lead at home to Toronto
That's
in the 88th minute.
You know what this is? This is the late screamer Yuba Diarra time.
Oh man.
Jesus Christ. But that's all I know. I mean, I don't, they seem like they're fine. They don't seem like anything special. They seem like a team that we can beat. I wouldn't expect anything else. In 3 points.
All right.
On tomorrow. And I'm very excited for it too. I'm very excited for this game. I want to be there. Very important for the team.
I'm bringing the cup.
Good atmosphere. The cup was brought last game. So I'm hoping that you bring it the same, for this week.
Yep, I will.
You need to control it because it's...
So we determined that the cup is neither good nor bad. It's just chaos energy, and then we just have to wield it in the right way.
That's fair.
So I think it depends on which soda fountain. There's like an algorithm of fountains and sodas that you have to pick, and like it's a secret code. I think we'll figure it out.
Have you tried like every machine in the stadium this year?
It's like have you ever read the Da Vinci Code or like any Dan Brown book?
No.
It's there's a large like cryptographical code that we have to go to Paris to figure out from some Renaissance painting. So we'll be back, but we'll figure out the soda.
We're
code
gonna
for the
steal the
stadium.
Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, exactly.
It does sound like you're basically admitting to not being able to wield the cup the entire season. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't understand its power until last week.
Okay.
How can you put that against me? It's a divine, like esoteric power that we cannot understand. How could we possibly understand?
I just wanted to be on the record that this is your fault.
Well, I mean, once the Illuminati helps me out, we'll win every game next season. It'll be our invincible season. It'll get bored.
Sure.
We'll get so bored of winning, we'll beg for a loss. Okay, but as I've admitted all season, I don't know fuck all about what's going on in the league. Like, I really only care about this team. But I hope that there's still some like. I feel like Atlanta's still close enough where we still have some residual like caring about it, unlike DC where it's like who cares? Like,
that's honestly kind of true, and this probably hopefully, actually, I was going to say unfortunately, but hopefully it gets people pissed off and gets some hate listens on this show.
Oh yeah,
maybe we're young whippersnappers.
Well, I was gonna say,
but I consider Atlanta more of a rival than DC.
If anyone from Atlanta is listening, Trains is right and you're wrong. Okay,
yeah, that's true.
There's definitely, there's just like so many more elements to like, I don't know, you called fucking Atlanta a rivalry, but there's like the tension online is just, it's so much more present.
Is it like at this point? I don't even know, but I was just gonna say like,
over the last 4 years,
hopefully just Sean Davis and like Kyle Duncan in themselves are just like pissed off at the idea of Atlanta still. That they
it's definitely part of just like the discourse around the league the last few years and people thinking Atlanta is this big thing, and it's our job, it's our fate as Red Bull fans to kind of be the ankle biters on all that kind of shit.
It's funny how every big new thing is like an ideological like rival to us.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It just shows how big of a club we are. Like
Pretty much.
like if every single person is an op, then we're the biggest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I agree that DC just doesn't matter to me right now. They're so irrelevant. They're playing for such different status than us in Atlanta are these days. And that I agree with. And I guess getting into the just, the pure horse race element of it. Yes, we do want to get 3 points, and we're very capable of getting 3 points against Atlanta on Wednesday. But the way the table is shaping out right now, we honestly still should be good, even if we just get a tie out of one of these last couple games. It feels fairly safe in the playoff picture. I guess what I'm rooting for, the exciting nerd thing that I will get out of an Atlanta win is that we will get to see a Red Bulls 2 game against Nashville on Saturday or Sunday, I guess it is, decision day. And
it'll be like
we'll get to see Yuba, we'll get to see Pendon, we'll get to see Egbo.
It'll be like the RFK game where it's
exactly.
Gonzalo Verón,
where
Keita
and Murillo scored that goal. Yeah. We might even see Bento Estrella be a 15-year-old on the field. Yeah, we'll see all your cartoon pals. Hopefully in the Nashville game, that our trophy, because we're not going to win the playoffs. Fuck that. We don't want to.
I don't know. This season,
we'll
would be the best season.
True, it would be great banter to win this season. But
I'm kind of rooting for us. I've been saying 1-0s can win cup tournaments.
It's true. But in the event that doesn't happen, playing for a meme, last game of the season with a freak lineup would be a nice little trophy.
Good novelty.
That's my late season trophy that I'm looking for this week.
That's our version of rooting for a scoregami is rooting for a weird roster.
Yeah, totally. So anything else we want to?
I mean, I want to win out.
I of course, your lips to God's ears.
Right, and Nashville is we're the only team Nashville really drops points to.
No, that would be a good streak.
Yeah,
to keep up, just be the Nashville Killers, because just being a killer to any of the Southern Highlands Royals clubs is kind of our MO. But Nashville kind of kind of embodies it more than most. So being a thorn in their side would be a nice reputation to gather.
Once Charlotte joins the league, they're in for a real can of some divine retribution from us.
Yeah. New York Charlotte could be a rivalry, just fleece vest crowd, but on those terms. But
a lot of gingham shirts.
Yeah, that's down the road. But do we want to do predictions before we sign off, or
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, what's Alex Muyl up to these days?
Oh yeah,
isn't he great? Isn't he a legend for Nashville?
Is he a legend?
I think he's kind of killing it for them.
Yeah, he's one of their favorite players. Yeah, which is good for them. They deserve, or he deserves it. But not good for them. Good for him.
He's got 1 assist and 3 goals this season.
Okay.
Those are Alex Muyl numbers. Those are productive Alex Muyl numbers.
Very Muyl numbers. But that goes to show he's the type of dude who's it's the stuff.
Yeah, but what are his XGC numbers?
Yeah,
okay,
right.
That's it's not
about the immediate stats. It's about the
They don't tell the full story.
Every Lower East Side rogue needs to have a stint in Nashville.
Alex Muyl
needs to do their Nashville run to actually let their hair down.
Alex Muyl says, "Go see my bestie in Dune in theaters now."
Yeah, exactly. Do we want to do predictions for Atlanta? And then
I don't know. I think we beat Atlanta just off of Bants, honestly. I think we put a decent 2-0 drubbing on them. We finally finish a second chance, and then they give up. You know how teams give up.
I can see that. Yeah.
And then we go on to Nashville and we put up a meme team, and then we put 4 on them.
I'm okay with both of those possibilities.
I'm sure many people are okay with both of those.
Yeah. That would definitely be a good meal to be served. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, I would say fucking 4. I don't know, 4. I think we're looking at 4 points.
4 points. Okay.
But I don't know. I think that if we win, You know what? No, I don't think 4 points. I think that if we win in Atlanta, then the team will have fun with it in Nashville and just crush them.
Do you have the table up?
Yeah.
Are we mathematically allowed to get to like
No.
third?
No.
Second is definitely cut off, but
Yeah, second is cut off. I know that much.
Third is cut off as well. We are 7 points out of
So
reach.
we can't host at all?
Correct. We can. The only team that we can potentially hop is City.
Oh, that's something to play for.
If we get 6 points and they just get if they draw their last game, then
we'll still be in.
Then we're golden.
Okay, we got something to play for then. That's all I care about.
Yeah. Saint Citying Ham's Day is upon us, but yeah, I'll stick with that. I'll keep the positivity flowing, and think that not only that we'll win both these games, but I think we'll finally, break some goals out for the first time since Miami. I think it would be very sweet, and I think very possible for for Atlanta to have one of the increasingly trademark second half shit fits,
honestly,
at RBA, and us kind of carve them up
after the result against Montreal. And there can be nothing but good vibes, right? Like, how can you not have anything but good vibes going on right now?
Yeah.
So let's keep the good vibes rolling.
I think we're either gonna win or draw. I think there's gonna be something like it's gonna be like if we have
totally flat.
If we have
totally
a nervy
awesome
home performance, then we're gonna have like another nervy road performance. But if we are confident, I think there will be some sort of a relief if we lock in a playoff spot after being so low over the summer. I think the team will feel that, even if we on this podcast don't really care as much. But I think that like once the team gets that locked in, they're going to be playing with a little bit of a relief. And I think that like that level of comfort, even on the road at Nashville will show through.
I hate to say this because it's been a while since I feel like this phrase has been said on this podcast, but finishing up, like I think throughout the season, there's been real doubt cast upon this team, both from outside and inside. I think there's been real skepticism about the project at hand. But, I think that gives our team a real chip on the shoulder. And
that's the phrase. There we go.
But yeah, like there's something to prove. I think the boys like feel that. And I think that everyone who at some point might have felt demotivated right now has managed to get it up right in time. And yeah, and like it's kind of a joke that I'm saying good vibes, but not really. Like that's what you need to win. So I feel good vibes, and I want them to keep going, and I hope we have like 4 or 5 more episodes this season. That'd be sick.
Hey.
Yep.
Could be. But in the meantime, Yuba, get your 8 hours tonight. We're depending on you tomorrow, and let's get these wins.
Yeah.
Do we agree?
Let's
get the wins.
Let's get that bread.
Get that bread. Get that bread. Matt Turner, you owe me.
It's Alex!